faster, healthier, better.
Lexi, I appreciate you coming back.
It is great to be back. Thank you for having me.
I think we had the most amount of requests for you to come back. The most amount of requests.
I appreciate it.
So I was like, okay, we got to figure this out. So I appreciate you taking the time today.
My pleasure.
How are you? What's new?
Life is good. Continuing to grow Lady the F Up. It is more successful every month, which is amazing. We now work with about 600 women around the world.
Wow.
I have a team of 8 incredible coaches. So it's not just me. We've grown. We've had the same team for about a year and a half now. So we're really cohesive and collaborative, and things are running like a well-oiled machine. And our clients are so happy with the work that we're doing and being able to put out more educational videos and creating new community spaces. So lots of work has been going into building that.
Yeah.
Personally training for the CN Tower climb in 9 days.
Okay.
And then I'm also in a build for at least another year before stepping on stage to compete again.
Wow. So a lot on your plate.
Yeah.
But you're doing it well. So I appreciate that. Okay. So a couple of things I want to go over. I saw that you're doing like a 60-day challenge.
Yes.
Right? Tell me a little bit about that.
So the 60-day challenge was actually what started Lady the F Up. So this, I believe, is our like 17th or 18th 60-day challenge. We started our first one in July of 2019.
Okay.
And we run them 3 to 4 times a year. And it's really just kind of like a kickstart for women that want to get into fitness, or for our existing lifestyle clients that want a goal to work towards. Okay. So I kind of call it like a mini competition prep experience where you are super disciplined. You are making sure that everything that goes into your mouth is tracked. There's no alcohol. Your cardio progresses week over week. So we start you with like 20 minutes. By the end of it, you're doing either 90 minutes, 2 hours, depends on your goals. And then it's judged by the entire Lady the F Up, Man the F Up Hammer Fitness team on the best visual transformation. And we have different awards like cash prizes and coaching prizes and photo shoots.
That's pretty cool.
But it really is that like sense of community of all of these women start on a day and they're working towards a day together, and having that online space where people can post their sweaty selfies or, you know, pop in and be like, oh, I'm having a really down day today. One of our challengers last week posted that her brother-in-law was in an accident and was brain dead. And seeing all of these women come in and be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm so proud of you for showing up, so that they don't just connect with us. They have a group of essentially 50 women every single challenge sign up for this that are supporting them and cheering them on and saying, you're going through hard things, but you've committed to this and we believe in your ability to do that.
That's pretty sweet. So it's like cardio, tracking food and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So do you make them do like MyFitnessPal or?
Yeah. So it's very similar to our lifestyle coaching in terms of approach. So everything is 100% individualized. Typically, we start people on a meal plan if they've never tracked macros before. And then by week 2 or 3, we've transitioned them into flexible dieting where it's like, hey, don't eat like an asshole, but still you have the flexibility. So you're not eating broccoli and chicken and rice every single day.
Yeah.
So we give them their nutrition and their macro tracking. We adjust that on a either weekly or every other week basis. Their training program is made specifically for them. What equipment do you have? Are you at home? Are you at the gym? Making sure you're progressively overloading there. And then we have the check-in. So it is the exact same experience as our lifestyle coaching, but at a much more aggressive pace of like, you want to see the fastest transformation possible in 60 days? Let's push.
Yeah.
And there's no excuses.
Okay. So when some people are doing it, so do people repeatedly like do it every year?
We have a couple of people that love the challenges and they'll come back and do one. We try to limit it to 1 a year just because it is pretty aggressive on the body and you don't want to be in that kind of state multiple times. But we have some people that love the challenges. We have some people that do one challenge, then transition to lifestyle, and then maybe 2 years later come back and do another one. We have some people that do the challenge and are like, cool, I got the greatest transformation. Let's work with the reverse diet for like 8-ish weeks, and then I'm going to go on my own. So it really depends on what an individual woman is looking for.
Okay. Explain reverse dieting for people.
So reverse diets, when you go into a calorie deficit and you're doing a lot of cardio and you're not eating as much food, you can't go from that immediately back to your previous lifestyle because it takes a really long time for metabolic adaptation to happen. And when you're in a calorie deficit, that is when you are most sensitive to putting on body fat. Now, 60 days is not going to be as like detrimental as doing a 6-month, 8-month competition prep, but it's still a lot on your body. So in a reverse diet, what we're doing is we're increasing the calories slowly and we're pulling back on the cardio to increase your metabolic rate. The more food that comes in, the higher your metabolic rate can be, as long as you follow that reverse diet properly. So what we typically see is, yes, you're seeing really good weight loss through the 60-day challenge. Most of our women lose anywhere between like 10 and even 35 pounds in the 60 days. And then as we're pulling back, you're not doing 90 minutes of cardio anymore. You're doing 45, you're doing 30, and then 20, and then it's 24 times a week. You're still keeping your resistance training. You're still tracking your macros. Cardio's going down, food's going up, but we're still in a calorie deficit. We're just not in as much of a calorie deficit. And their body starts to respond better so that, call it 4, even 8 weeks after, you're down an additional 5, 10 pounds, but you're eating more and you're doing less.
Gotcha. And have you had people who've, hit a little bit of a wall, and like, how do you help them get past that tough time of like, I really don't want to do cardio. I don't even like, there's that little piece of Reese's Pieces that what is that tracking, whatever. How do you help them with those habits of just being like really, really into like being routine?
It's a reminder that the short-term temptation is never as good as the achieving the goal that you want. So it's a reminder of, here's why you signed up. A lot of the times when women work with me, I ask them, what's your why? Especially with the 60-day challenge, there are going to be so many days that you do not want to do this. So what is going to get you out of bed? What is the phrase that you are reminding yourself of? Leave little sticky notes. Sometimes I'll even have my women write a letter to their future self in the challenge for those hard days, being like, what are you going to tell yourself on those days? And then, of course, you can always reach out to me, but it's also the community aspect of, oh, I didn't get my cardio in this morning because my kid was sick and then I had to rush them to an appointment. So now it's 9:30 at night and I don't want to do it, but I'm going to do it anyways. And then you have the support of that community pushing them through. It's a lot of just focusing on the habits and asking yourself, okay, you didn't have a great day. Break your day into quarters. You didn't have a great first quarter of your day. That doesn't mean the remaining 3 quarters have to be shit. You can focus on what you have control over. You can fuel yourself well. You can move your body, and the stress management and recovery aspect is the biggest. If you are out of your window of tolerance, so essentially from a, how do I put this? From a like neuropsychology standpoint, I've been focusing a lot on that recently. There's this window where if we stay within it, our prefrontal cortex can stay online, and our prefrontal cortex is responsible for regulating all of the things that we know that we should do. So your nutrition and macros. Okay, I shouldn't eat that Reese's Pieces. I know that. I should go get my cardio done. If your prefrontal cortex is online, you're more likely to follow through with those actions. But if you are outside of your window of tolerance, either above or below it, so you're really, really stressed, that prefrontal cortex can check out and say, nope, we're not working anymore. The emotional brain starts to run the show, and the emotional brain relies more on the brain stem, which is responsible for your coping reflexes. So this is where if someone has had disordered eating patterns in the past, or if they turn to social media or anything that is a reflex for them when they're feeling unsafe, or if their body feels that there's a threat, those will come up time and time again. And it's not like, okay, you're spending 2 or 3 months working on this new version of yourself. Your body has spent decades, especially in those developmental years as a teenager going into young adult life. What reflexes you use there are going to be very, very strong and keep coming up. So it's about not really punishing yourself or feeling guilty or leaning into that. It's how do we navigate that nervous system response, and what actions can you take to tell yourself that you are safe and regulate that nervous system so your prefrontal cortex can stay online, and then you follow through with the actions that you know you should be doing.
That makes sense. And a lot of it too is I think building willpower too with it. So how would you say to build willpower in people who have not really been testing themselves?
Do it.
That's a big one.
Do it.
Yeah.
There's a region in your brain located in the prefrontal cortex called the AMCC, and it's the anterior mid-cingulate cortex or something like that. But the AMCC, that is what is responsible for willpower. So if you see your AMCC like you're training a muscle, the more that you use that region of your brain, the stronger it's going to get.
Yeah.
So if you start to say no to the things you want to say yes to, or you start to say yes to the things you want to say no to, that will make it stronger. If you wake up in the morning and you're like, I don't want to get out of bed. But you get out of bed, that makes your AMCC stronger. So it's a kind of, if you don't use it, you lose it kind of thing.
Like it really is. Like I have heard of that before. I think I've listened to it on Huberman's podcast.
Yeah.
And he literally talked about like it is like a muscle. Like you have to train it.
Yeah.
Repeatedly, like just little things. Like I have to do it. I have to do it. I have to do it.
Yeah.
Bigger things are a little bit more easier to like get over.
And that's why I love doing things that I don't like doing. So I'm not a fan of meditating.
Yeah.
I still meditate.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I find that when I meditate, I'm able to keep my prefrontal cortex online a lot better because I am someone who has those food reflexes. I don't like to call it binging. I don't like to call it disordered eating because when you understand it from a neurological standpoint, it's a food reflex. When I don't feel safe, I want to turn to food. So the more that I meditate, the less that those instances will pop up, or the less that my desire to turn to food will come up as well. Cold showers are another really good thing, or cold plunges. I try to stay away from cold plunges because they minimize the hypertrophy event or effect. And I'm trying to get as muscly as possible. So cold showers don't have that same effect. So in the morning, the last thing I want to do is hop into a cold shower, but I will do it. So it's those little actions of the, I don't want to do it, but I'm going to do it anyways, that compound over time, where it feels like there's a lot less effort in the decision making for the things that like you got to do, but you don't really want to do.
Yeah, I think it goes back to like just also creating mini wins and mini challenges for yourself during the day, right?
Yeah.
What does meditation look like for you?
For me, I will use the Headspace app.
Okay.
So I'm not one that can like sit there and do an unguided thing. I need someone to be like, hey, come back to the breath, because my brain will wander. I will do it maybe like 3 or 4 times a week. What I really lean into more so is the non-sleep deep rest. I don't find that has the same effect as the like guided meditations do, but I love non-sleep deep rest. If I'm exhausted in the middle of the day, or if I'm finding that mentally I'm just not operating as quickly as I feel like I should, I'll take a 10-20 minute break, pull up a YouTube non-sleep deep rest and just like lay there for 20 minutes and then continue on with my day. Whereas the meditation is like 5-ish minutes of like, okay, focus on thinking about nothing.
Yeah, it's a bit hard.
And that's hard.
Yeah, I've been using the Othership app.
Yeah.
And I find like I did one for as a pre-workout, and that was very interesting because I felt my lung capacity was actually a little bit better after that. And then I obviously do the morning ones, and I've done the night routine ones, and I find it's interesting because it's only 5 minutes. Yeah. Right. And the key word is only, but yet in your head you're like 5 minutes. I could go take a second to like go walk or something like that. But the 5 minutes after, I find it's just so much clarity or so much of a reset in your brain. And it just helps you be a little bit more productive.
It's the stillness because from wake to sleep, we're go, 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 go. And this forces you to be like, no, there's no distractions. It's just you and your thoughts, and even your thoughts are a distraction at this point. So just be still and be present. Some meditation sessions are way better than others. When I come out, I'm like, oh, that was amazing. Where other times I'm like, okay, well, I did it.
Yeah,
but it's that consistency
It's almost like
aspect.
a checklist.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, I wanted to talk to you about Ozempic. Why is this becoming such a thing right now?
So it's the easy route. Ozempic is essentially something that suppresses your appetite. And as an appetite suppressant, you're naturally inclined to eat less overall. Now, for a lot of people who aren't tracking their calories, or they don't really give a flock about their health, they just want it for the aesthetics. They want to lose weight. It can be beneficial, but you also need to think about the cons of it. If you are a sedentary person who all of a sudden drastically reduces your caloric intake, and there is no sort of conscientious ability for like protein, and you're not resistance training, when you lose that weight, you're going to lose a lot of muscle mass. Now, I do see for the incredibly obese people that don't necessarily have the self-control, there is like, from a psychological standpoint, there is food noise where that's that like food cravings, you can't stop thinking about food. I understand from that perspective, but if it's someone that's trying to lose like 10 or 20 pounds, it's not the right approach. And then I've actually worked with quite a bit of women who came to me on Ozempic, and our goal is to transition them off. And in that transition off, which is done with their medical practitioner, I see a lot of digestive issues coming up afterwards.
I've heard this too. I've heard digestive issues and huge thyroid issues, right? I've had somebody I know, she was embarrassed to tell me because she knew I was going to like be so upset with her. She's like, I tried Ozempic, and I'm like, why? And she was just like, she caved in because her friends in Florida were all doing it and they're fine.
Yeah.
From her perspective, they're fine. And they look great. From her perspective, they look great. But she said she had incredible headaches. She was nauseous all day and she was super tired all day.
Yeah.
And she did it for, I think, 8 days, and she was off a bit right after. So I know the nausea, the headaches. Obviously, you're hungry, right? Like, so I know those are the effects of it. What have you seen effects from it from?
So it goes back to the, like, if you don't use it, you lose it kind of thing. So from a thyroid perspective, if you are under eating drastically, that's going to adjust your metabolic rate. Like metabolic adaptation, your body's just trying to keep you alive.
Yeah.
So it is going to downregulate everything. And what regulates your metabolism the most is your thyroid. So when we see that reduction in metabolism, then your thyroid, if you come off of it, is going to need time to pick back up again and start to work on its own as more food comes in. And then same thing with your digestive stress. So like if you're not eating a lot of food, that can slow your digestive rate down because the amount of food coming in has decreased. And then all of a sudden you're transitioning off of it. You're trying to have more food coming in. So I have women who, if they weren't on Ozempic and they came to me, I'd be like, I would have you eating like 2,000 calories to start.
Yeah.
But they can't even stomach 1,000 right now.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, those 1,000 calories that we're going to start with are going to be predominantly protein and a little bit of fiber and some veggies. And we're slowly going to increase that over time. But it takes, from what I've seen with the women that I've personally worked with, anywhere between 4 months and like a year for their digestion to come back. I just have no idea what the cost is.
I've seen commercials for it on Instagram now. Like they're like selling it like and like websites now. Like, and I have 2 clients who are pharmacists, and they say like their people are just asking for it like crazy, and now I'm back order. But I think Health Canada said like for basically low key, but to doctors like not to prescribe it unless you like you're diabetic or you really need it.
Yeah.
So it's becoming like such a huge thing now. Like I've never had so many clients or people in general ask me like, what do you think? I'm like, I think it's awful for you.
Yeah.
like for the person, like, again, as you just said, if you're a person trying to lose 10 or 20 pounds and like just change your habits, and like, yes, it's going to be a longer road, maybe a tougher road, but it's also the healthier road.
Yeah.
Right?
And when you come off of it, like Ozempic is an appetite suppressant. So if this is something that you want to keep up for the rest of your life, you need to stay on it forever. What are the long-term effects of that?
100%.
Whereas if you are on it, you see your weight loss and you're like, cool, I'm great. And then you come off of it and your appetite slowly starts coming back. Now what you have is a downregulated metabolism that is ready to put on a whole bunch of body fat because you lost a whole bunch of body fat really quickly. You have less muscle mass unless you've been resistance training and eating adequate protein in that small amount of food that you've been eating. And when you gain it all back, you're not going to gain as much muscle. You're going to gain back way more body fat. So now your body composition, if you go back to where you were, is actually worse because you have more body fat and less muscle mass. So there's a time and a place for it, but for the majority of the general population, I would say no.
Yeah, that's fair.
So if you have never used a nutrition tracking app before, get into that. They're not that difficult to learn, but make sure that you are aware of what your protein intake is. Like you said, the majority of women are under eating. And when women start to work with me and I give them that meal plan for the first week, they're like, oh my God, this is so much food, and oh my God, this is so much protein. It's like, yes, this is what you should be eating.
100%, yeah.
There's more and more research coming out now where even if you don't resistance train, but you bring your protein up, you're going to add lean muscle mass. Your body composition is going to improve. You're going to feel better day to day because these are things like the 9 essential amino acids that we cannot make from food or from our body. We have to get from food. We have to get from protein. So if you're lacking those, there's not enough ingredients coming in, you're going to feel like garbage day to day. So in order to get more protein, you do have to be aware of it. So if you're having 3 meals a day, make sure that you're having at least 1 palm size of protein per meal. So that can be chicken, that can be beef, it can be meats, it can be fish. From a plant-based perspective, I do work with women that are either vegetarian or vegan. It's a little bit harder to get, especially when you're looking at the 9 essential amino acid standpoint, because the only plant-based source that has all 9 is pumpkin seeds, and pumpkin seeds are a very dense food. Like for you to eat
That's a lot of, like, you would have to eat a lot of that.
Which the fiber content of it, the iron content, the zinc content, like you would be in the bathroom shitting your brains out. Which
consistently.
Highly do not recommend.
Yeah.
But pumpkin seeds are a good factor to get in there.
Yeah.
But it's like figuring out what meals you're going to enjoy and what foods you can incorporate so you're not having meat 24/7. I personally, I could be a carnivore. I love meat. My protein intake, if I'm tracking it and I'm intuitively eating, is up anywhere between 180 and 250 grams because my serving sizes for meat, like my dinner is 4 chicken thighs or it's like 2 chicken breasts. For me, I have to be careful with my egg consumption because my eggs are like a come and go intolerance
Situation,
depending on how much of it I eat.
Yeah.
The Ninja Creamy, for anyone that likes ice cream,
Yeah, that's a new big thing.
game changer.
Yeah.
Oh, I got it a year ago and I have ice cream every day in some form.
So how do you like? You just put a protein powder in it?
Protein powder, and then I found that the base of it, liquid cartoned egg whites, is like the best texture and consistency because I can't do dairy. If I could do Greek yogurt, absolutely, I'd toss that in. Whey protein, I'd put it in.
Yeah.
My favorite combination right now is a plant-based protein called Good Protein. They have a salted caramel and a pumpkin latte. So like I'm a basic bitch fall girl. I love pumpkin spice anything. So they have a really good pumpkin spice protein. So you just take like, I think my ratio is 50 grams of plant-based protein, 300 grams of egg whites, and then you just like mix it up, freeze it, and then you spin it, and it comes out delicious.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
So good.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of pretty good recipes online.
Yeah.
What do you say to the people who say you can only like absorb 30 grams of like protein per hour?
Incorrect.
Yeah.
There's a lot of science coming out that is starting to disprove that. And when I did my work with Dr. Pastore, he had mentioned studies where they saw a bolus of like 80 grams of protein being absorbed. If you eat a really big steak and it's 80 grams of protein, your body is going to use all of that. And there's more than just muscle protein synthesis when it comes to protein intake. Everyone thinks like, okay, 20 to 30 grams, like that's the golden number for muscle protein synthesis. But your body can also use protein for a multitude of other things. It's more like, what is your daily protein intake from wake to sleep? Than it is you must get 30 to 40 grams of protein every 3 to 4 hours. That's going to be beneficial for muscle building. But I think there was a new study that came out as well where the amount of protein that you eat after a resistance training session, they've tried to find that there's like no real upper threshold to it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've always been told, and I've always thought myself, like after a hard training session, I'd rather have more carbs and then protein.
Yes.
Right? I think everybody, well, at a young age too, like especially if you're a boy, it's like protein, right? But when I got a little bit older, people were like, somebody I looked up to was like, more carbs and then protein.
Yeah, you want those quick carbohydrates to come into your body and help replenish those glycogen stores that you just depleted after your resistance training session. So I am a big fan of that as well, especially right now when I'm doing my resistance training and then I'm doing my stairs right afterwards, training for this climb. I'll have my pre-workout meal of like protein and some carbs. I'll come in, I'll do my resistance training, and then I will have some form of quick carbohydrates that I have after my resistance training before I get onto the stairs, whether it's like a small bag of candy or some fruit or something that's going to get that simple sugars into me really quickly so I can continue to perform for my cardio. And then after that, when I get home, I'll also have some either fruit or quick carbohydrates, and I'll wait a little bit because the meal that I have pre-training, it's only been like 2.5, 3 hours of that being digested. There's still enough protein in my system that I can wait an hour or two after I get home to have to worry about my protein. So I do prioritize carbs around my workout.
Okay. I think that's really important too. Okay, I wanted to talk to you about habits because I love how much you help people with habits and routines and stuff like that. I just finished Atomic Habits. Yeah. And one thing that really stuck out to me is if you want to change your habits, one of the best things to do is to change your identity. So the explanation that I saw that they wrote was if there are two people who are trying to quit smoking, one of them is offered a cigarette, one of them says, no thanks, I'm trying to quit. And then one of them just says, oh, I don't smoke. Yeah. And the one who says, oh, I don't smoke is more likely to be successful, not ever smoke it again, than the person who's saying, no, it's okay, I'm trying to quit. So what are your thoughts on that?
You have to think and act like the person you want to become before you become that person. So I totally agree with all of that. And how you speak to yourself and how you speak about yourself to others also creates part of your identity. Yeah. So I am not someone who drinks. It's not oh, no, thanks, I'm not going to drink this. I don't drink alcohol, period. Everyone in my life knows that. And the women that I work with, especially in the early couple of months when they're trying to navigate this change of like, okay, I'm going out and being social, you can still do that stuff, but you have to have your boundaries around who are you as a person? Are these choices going to be worth it? And a lot of times the choices that they make when they go into it, they're like, yeah, this is going to be worth it. And then they experience it. And then a couple of days after, they're like, that wasn't worth it. So every aspect that you take is a learning experience that allows you to really zone in on what habits and what boundaries am I placing around myself that are just part of my day-to-day life. And the habits aren't something that are going to happen overnight. Yes. Like they're something that require consistency, not perfection. You're not going to be perfect. And that's where a lot of people go wrong is the all or nothing mindset. But if you are starting to become a new version of yourself, you have to keep that in mind 24/7. You can't revert back to your old ways. And this is where staying within that like window of tolerance where your prefrontal cortex is online also comes into play. So it's really just reflecting upon what did I do well? What can I improve upon? And that self-reflection and getting feedback from a coach when you check in to be like, okay, these are the habits you did really well. Let's keep those up. This week, we're going to work on this one new thing. Don't go all in too quick because you're going to burn out. It's not going to be sustainable. But adding in little things like starting to track your food, starting to have more protein in your day, starting to go for walks, doing the things you don't want to do, the cold showers. It's like pick something that becomes part of who you want to be and how you are going to get there and be successful. Do it until it's consistent and then build upon that. Yeah. I think that's definitely a great start. Any books or any apps or anything you have for people to help with the habits? It's very different from person to person. A lot of people, like in our Lady the F Up app, we have a whole bunch of like habits that you can check off. Some people are a pen and paper person. I'm one of those. So I have my like agenda, like it's grade school again, where I see my schedule and it's highlighted and color coded so I can see what I do. But sometimes I get tired of using the agenda. So I'll switch over and I'll just use my notes app. I'll use different alarms. So it really is like, what's going to stick with you? Okay, so in your opinion, it's more of what's actually going to be consistent. What are you going to be consistent with, opposed to like the actual option? Yeah. Are you adverse to technology? Do you love technology? Are you going to buy your planner, write in it for a week, and then never use it again? So think about how you structure your day-to-day life and what's already working with you. What do you do for work? Right? Like what systems keep you organized at work? Those systems will probably also keep you organized in your personal life. Yeah. Okay. You made a post about something. I wanted to talk to you about it. Oral allergy system. Yes. Tell me a little bit more about that. So oral allergy syndrome. And then there is pollen food allergy syndrome. So both of them, they're kind of interchangeable. And syndrome means we don't really know why this happens, but it does. So we're just going to give it a medical diagnosis of calling it a syndrome. But what happens here, and this kind of goes back to our last conversation when we were here with the gut health and the digestive stuff, with oral allergy syndrome, if you are allergic to a specific type of pollen, there are healthy foods, fruits, vegetables, predominantly, sometimes nuts and seeds, that also grow in nature. And they have similar homogeneous epitopes. So homogeneous means they kind of look similar. And then the epitope is essentially, it's an antigen. How do I make this simple? Kind of think of it like the cell identity of a pollen looks similar to a cell identity of a fruit or a vegetable.
Okay.
So for me, I'm allergic to ragweed. In August, when ragweed pollen is out, I am a congested, stuffy mess.
Yeah.
Now, ragweed pollen looks similar to banana, zucchini, cucumber, squash, and watermelon. So those 5 foods I am at higher risk of reacting to because I have that ragweed allergy. So for me, I am okay with squash, I'm okay with cucumber, I'm okay with zucchini, but watermelon and banana, I have identified over time that those I'm actually allergic to.
Okay.
And it's not like breakout in hives, anaphylaxis kind of stuff, but I can feel like a little bit of itching in my mouth, or I get a little congested, or there's like a phlegm ball in the back of my throat. And then for a couple of days afterwards, I'm either holding a little bit of water, or like constipation can be a sign of a food allergy.
Okay.
People don't understand that. And they're like, oh, I'm eating so healthy. Okay, but that healthy food might not be right for you. So there's different pollens out there that come out in different seasons. So right now it is cedar and juniper in April that are the big ones. And those are connected with things like apples and tomatoes and bananas and paprika. There's a whole list. If you type in oral allergy syndrome Stanford, so like Stanford out in California, they have a list of all of the different foods and how they connect with pollens. There's also a podcast that Dr. Pastore and I did all on this. And it's really interesting because I didn't know I was allergic to banana, and I didn't know that I was allergic to watermelon until I was sitting on my couch with the windows open one August, and it was ragweed season, and I bit into a banana and I got stupid congested and sneezy, and it came out of nowhere. Like, I wasn't sick. It was just this wicked sneezing congestion, 20 minutes in, out, done. And I was like, huh. And I was able to piece it together. And you're not just allergic to those foods when that pollen is in season, but it's this like compound effect of you're eating the foods that have this allergic reaction where this cell structure, homogeneous epitope is there. And then you also have the pollen. So it's a compounding effect that your symptoms are worse. But even when that pollen isn't in season, you can still be allergic to that food.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So to see what you're allergic to and everything like that, you just got to be more in tune with your body. Really pay attention. Like
paying attention to anything above the neck is the biggest thing. So like a phlegmy cough, a stuffy nose, sneezing, any sort of itching or watery eyes, stuff like that. So anything above the neck is typically allergy. You can also, if it's a severe case, nausea, vomiting, sometimes even diarrhea. So like having to run to the bathroom within 20 minutes of eating something, but those aren't as common. It's more the subtle things where we're like, and then you just kind of brush it off and you go on with your day.
While eating the bananas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Paying attention to that. Cooking the food can lessen the symptoms of it.
Yeah.
Doesn't make the allergy go away, but it can be less severe. So a lot of physicians and allergists out there will be like, oh, just like cook your apples or warm up your banana and it'll be less, but you're still reacting to it. And if you put that into your body, there's going to be some sort of immune response to it. So I typically try to avoid it as best as possible. Although I went on an all-inclusive a couple of weeks back and I was like, oh, the watermelon here. I want to try the watermelon. I had it for breakfast and that ruined my entire day.
Oh, no.
From like 2 pieces of watermelon. So it's like, okay, I love watermelon, but it's still something that I need to avoid. Yeah.
So I also saw you made a post about transformations and inflammation can hinder progress and stuff like that. Dive into that a little bit more for me.
So your metabolism wants to run and find homeostasis and be in balance always. If there's inflammation in your body, what I've noticed with a lot of women and wearing a Whoop is that your metabolism can decrease. Like your metabolic rate can go down, your recoveries can go down, your HRV decreases, your resting heart rate increases. So all signs that there's some sort of stress on your body. And when your body is stressed, it's going to downregulate things and prioritize. We need to deal with the stress going on in the body. So if you're able to remove the things that are causing inflammation your metabolic rate can increase. And therefore, you burn more calories day to day, just existing without having to do more cardio, without having to eat less food. Oftentimes, you can eat more food of what makes you feel good because that's going to provide your body with more energy. Your NEAT goes up, you're moving around more, you're in a better mood. So inflammation is one of the biggest factors that holds people back from being able to see the progress without pushing more. You don't have to do 30 more minutes of cardio a day. It could just be that, hey, you're eating something that is causing inflammation in your body. And if you get rid of that, now all of a sudden the water weight drops, you feel less puffy, and you're actually hungry. And that means your body wants a little bit more food, so we can increase it week over week.
So how does a person know they have too much, like they're too inflamed? How are some signs that they can know?
Lower stomach distension. So everyone's like, oh, my lower stomach sticks out. I'm like, yes, to a degree, but if this is your abdominal wall and it's just here, so like your upper stomach is flat, your lower stomach is distended, that's probably because the intestines underneath are pushing it out because they're swollen and inflamed. Other things are if you wear stuff on your wrists or if you're wearing clothes and you take it off and there's red marks in your skin, it's a sign that your body is holding water. You could necessarily just be dehydrated and you need to drink more water in a day-to-day because that's a problem a lot of people have. But if there's inflammation there, brain fog, low mood, low energy, being tired all of the time, these are all signs that your body could be inflamed and you need to look into what you're eating.
Gotcha. And other than the food, anything else to help with inflammation?
Sleep, stress management as well. So digestive reactions and allergic reactions, all of that can be amplified when stress is higher. So if you manage your stress, if you get that 7 to 10 hours in bed, if you do things like non-sleep, deep rest, those can help your body and your nervous system kind of regulate into a state of being more autonomic and safer. And then your body can let go of that water a little bit more. It won't react to foods as severely. I've also noticed that personally, like, yes, gluten and dairy wreck me internally. But when I'm in a good place mentally and I'm not super stressed, my symptoms aren't nearly as bad if I do choose to eat it and be like, this is going to be worth it.
Yeah, I find that's definitely true. Like I've had a couple of clients who eat well, train hard, but they're super stressed out. So the cortisol levels are going up, right? And they're definitely inflamed. So that's definitely something to keep in mind, I think also. So simple things like I think like meditation, even actually going back to that, helps with like can help you calm down, which in turn keeps your cortisol levels down and hopefully keep that inflammation down.
One of the key things I took away from Andrew Huberman is the physiological sigh. I do it everywhere. I tell everyone about it. I remind my clients like on a weekly basis when they're stressed. So that double nose inhale, long mouth exhale. I'm like, if you don't have time for the 5 minutes of meditation, if you're sitting in your car and you are driving somewhere, just for like one song that you're listening to, go the entire time. Double nose inhale, long mouth exhale, and just that breathing pattern has been scientifically proven to regulate your nervous system a little bit more, calm you down, minimize the stress that you're feeling in the situation. I use it on a daily basis.
Yeah, well, even like you, when people are stressed out, people tell them like, just take a deep breath. Right, and that stems back from that, right? Okay, wanted to talk to you about fasting. What do you think about right now? A big thing is the 86-hour fast. Have you heard of this? I think Dana White from the UFC did it. And it's you fast for 86 hours. The first day, obviously, you're fasting. Second day, you have bone broth. And then you start drinking electrolytes after that. What do you think about all that?
I'm not well versed in fasting, mainly because from a like sustainability standpoint and a life enjoyment standpoint, not the greatest. Like if anything, from a time restricted feeding or like an eating window, don't eat 3 hours before bed. That would be my only recommendation when it comes to fasting, because in order for us to get into those early stages of deep sleep at night, we need to have the digestive system essentially turned off. So if you're eating your final meal right before bed, now it's taking hours for that digestive system to break it down, absorb all the food. So if you are waiting, you want to cut it off about 3-ish hours before, and you can see an improvement in your sleep, especially if you track it with one of these guys. Your deep sleep increases from, like, your deep sleep should ideally be about 2 hours of your evening. Same thing with your REM, should be about 2 hours. But if you're not eating, or if you're eating too close to bed and you're not giving yourself that time to digest, then it's going to impact the deep sleep. And that's where growth hormone is released and all of the repairing in the body happens, muscle growth, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned about the Whoop. Like, I love the Whoop. We were talking about the Whoop before we were shooting, but I find that if you just pay attention to it, it can tell you so many things, right? Like, for example, the Whoop told me when I was going to have COVID, basically.
Crazy.
It's crazy because I didn't believe it, you know? And then the second thing is the Whoop was telling me, I think a week ago, that basically I was getting sick. So my HRV, my rest and heart rate is always pretty superb.
Yeah.
But one day I did not train super hard. I wasn't overslept or underslept, I should say, or anything like that. But my HRV and my respiratory rate were like red. And there was nothing out of the norm that I was having. I was like, that's kind of weird. And that day I felt totally fine. Next day, so sick.
Yeah.
And it was telling me like, hey, something is coming along. Take care of yourself. So, and I also find it's interesting with the sleep too, because I find I'm pretty good at getting in deep sleep. Like my deep sleep is usually about 2 hours, and my REM sleep is usually about an hour. So like I try to balance it out, like you said, 2 hours each. But I find that I mean everybody's different, but I find it gets a little hard to get in those two ranges.
Yeah.
So do you find that you're pretty good at getting them both at like a reasonable amount?
It's gonna vary from night to night, and also the amount of stress that I feel in my day. And that's another thing that I love about the 4.0 is this new like stress monitor that they entered. Because 2 weeks ago, I was in the like medium to high stress all day. And I was like, yeah, I understand I'm going through a lot of like work pressure right now, but I don't feel that stress. But it was reflected in my HRV. It was reflected in my resting heart rate, my sleep as well. Like it was stress in my sleep instead of that low. So it took like 2 days of me taking a step back and be like, okay, we're going to spend more time in nature. We're going to spend time outside. We're going to like step away from the projects that we're working on and just chill for a little bit.
It's so hard to do though when you own your own business and you're trying, like, you're a very ambitious woman, so it's like it's so hard to be like, I have to take this time right now.
Yeah.
Right. It's hard to be selfish and be like, no, I have to take a break.
Yeah. So when you have data like this, it's a sign where you're like, okay,
exactly,
this will allow me to come back 48 hours from now and be better and have my mind sharper so that I can show up and be a better coach for everyone that needs me, be a better leader for my team that needs me, and then just have like better ideas as I'm putting together all of these projects that are going to come for the next year.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, you made you had so many things I want to talk about. You made a post about destination addiction.
Yes.
Okay, tell me a little bit about that.
So destination addiction, and this is something that many people still struggle with to this day, even if they're aware of it, is I will be happy when. I will be happy when I lose the 10 pounds. I will be happy when I get the promotion. I will be happy when I get the new car. People think that happiness is where they're not. And then once they get there, the happiness is going to be there. Especially from a physique aesthetics transformation standpoint, because that's the world that I live in. So many women that I work with are like, oh, I'm going to be happy when I get here. It's like, no. Trust me, as someone who has been 8% body fat and shredded, the leaner you get, the worse your body dysmorphia is. It's not going to make you happier. It is the pursuit and it is being in the journey that is the most fulfilling, and that's going to bring you happiness. So if you can find happiness where you are, that is what is going to lead to all of the doors opening in your life for you to be able to live a positive life. If you focus on, I'm going to be happy with the next thing, when you get there, the dopamine system doesn't recognize that. It's like, cool, okay, we got there, what's next?
Yeah.
So if you are able to enjoy the process instead, enjoy your workouts, enjoy being able to progressively overload, enjoy eating the foods and the meals that you're making, enjoy the process of it instead of I'm going to be happy when, you're just going to have so much of an easier time, and you're going to be more likely to stick to whatever you're trying to work towards.
Yeah, I definitely agree. What's your morning routine look like?
My morning routine. So I am fortunate that I have a lot of flexibility in my life. So typically I won't set an alarm in the morning. I let my body naturally wake up, and naturally it's around like anywhere between 8:30 and 10 o'clock in the morning. Okay. So I'm much more of a night owl. I would rather be working on my computer at like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night doing like client programs or something like that than waking up at 5 o'clock. So I'll let my body naturally wake up. I will take my dogs into the backyard. They can run around. I sit in my hot tub for about 10 minutes so I get that natural sunlight into my eyes, bring my core temperature up. Immediately after that, I will hop into the shower and have a cold 2-minute rinse to wake myself up a little bit more. And then from there, I'll have breakfast, which is normally just a plate of either chicken or turkey and then a bowl of fruit, so that I can like pick at it while I'm working at my desk.
Gotcha.
Depending on the day, a lot of my mornings I will have calls with clients or we'll have team meetings, and then I will take a break. I like to spend my early day period more working on me, charging my battery, and then going into everything else that needs me later in the day. So I'll do like client calls, and then I'll either walk my dogs or I'll go to the gym. I'll come back. I will have my post-workout carbs, my post-workout protein eventually, and then I'll do the bulk of my like client check-ins and programming, call it anywhere between 2 and 6 p.m.
Okay. And a nighttime routine, do you have one, or you just kind of like...
Nighttime routine is a lot of times it'll be like booping buttons on the computer, but not stuff that requires a whole bunch of mental work.
Gotcha.
I spend a lot of time with my partner as well because he works during the day. So it's our time to connect, walk the dogs again, probably go in the hot tub again in the evening because I love hot tubs.
Yeah.
See the stars because I live in a place where you can see them on a clear night.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah.
Did you see the clips?
No. So it was super cloudy.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't have the goggle thing. So I was like,
Either.
okay, that's cool. And then I moved on with my
Yeah. That's okay. That's fair. So we had a lot of people wanted to ask about gut issues again. So one big question was like, how do you know if you have a gut issue? How do you know you're not just bloated? How do you know, okay, I have a gut issue?
Well, if you are bloated, you probably have a gut issue. Other things are like, you don't know until you try removing something and you recognize how good you could feel.
Okay.
So bowel movements, being consistent, ideally going at least once a day. That's one. Having gas or not having gas. So no gas means that your digestion is probably okay. If you're experiencing any of those like phlegmy things that we said, let's say you're not sick, but you have a phlegmy cough or you randomly sneeze and you're inside and you're eating a meal, like sure, if you go out into the environment or if you walk into a dusty room, like there's a lot of reasons that you can sneeze. But if you're eating a meal and all of a sudden you're phlegmy, check into that because that could be causing inflammation and digestive issues elsewhere in the body. Skin issues as well. So psoriasis, eczema, acne, all of those can be connected to your gut. I know for me, if I eat things that I negatively react to, about 3 days later, my skin breaks out.
Okay.
Sometimes I will also break out into weird rashes, not anywhere here, but I'll have random rashes on like both of my shins or like the inside of my elbows. My mom had eczema growing up. So genetically, it makes sense that she has some sort of food allergies that she has not gotten checked out. But those will genetically,
Come on, Mom.
Those will genetically connect to me.
Yeah.
So I just have to be mindful of like, okay, if I'm getting itchy or if there's any sort of skin stuff coming up, pull way back to the safe foods that I know that I can eat. People that suffer with asthma. Asthma can also be connected with food allergies where eating specific foods makes the asthma worse or can trigger an asthma attack during physical activity later, a couple days after eating the food. So there's so many different warning signs that people are just like, this is common. Like everyone has this, but just because it's common doesn't mean it's normal.
Which is fair. I've read a lot too that some people think like being on a carnivore diet helps with one, inflammation, and 2, your gut health. What do you think about that?
I understand it from a perspective of like, if you're only eating meat, you get rid of a lot of the common digestive stressors out there. So like gluten, dairy, eggs is one too, but carnivore, you're probably eating eggs, and eggs isn't an every person thing. It's just one of the top 3. So carnivore can help reduce inflammatory foods potentially, but you can absolutely react to beef or pork or chicken or turkey. So it's entirely individualized. From a gut health perspective, I don't really think so because you're so limited to the amount of food coming in and there's no fiber. So if you think of your gut's kind of like an ecosystem. So think of it like you're going to the zoo and you have like the giraffes that eat this food and the lions that eat this food. In your gut, you also have that where there's different types of bacteria that feed on different types of food. So if all of a sudden you're starving the giraffes are going to die off. And if you're now feeding the lions population is going to grow and grow and grow. So we want a diverse gut microbiome where there's lots of different species that feed on different sources of fiber. So from a gut health standpoint, inflammation and food sensitivities, sure, I understand that, but I do think there should be some vegetables and fruit introduced as well.
I know a lot of people who they do the carnivore diet, but they do keep fruit in just for that, as you just said, fiber and stuff like that.
And carbohydrates are so important if your goal is to build muscle.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. It's hard to explain to some people. I'm sure you've had conversations in the past of women are like, "That's too many carbs. That's too many carbs." Like, how can we tell these women to have carbs? To have how can we tell them it's okay?
The women that come to me, I'm like, please just trust the process. And there's a lot of them that mentally just have this block. So I'll bump it 10 grams week over week. And then 10 weeks later, you've gone from 100 grams of carbs to 200 grams of carbs, and they don't realize how good that they're feeling. Yeah. But it's a very common thing that I hear. Women come to me like, I'm scared of carbs. I'm only eating 80 grams of carbs. Okay, we're slowly going to increase that because when you get them into resistance training, you actually show them what it means to push the intensity and what it takes to build muscle. And you think you're working hard, now you're not working hard. When you put those carbohydrates to use, you're able to utilize so much more of them. And then when you prioritize optimal protein and fiber intake as well, some of these women are doing lower carbs because they have insulin resistance. That I absolutely understand. Lower carbohydrates for now. But our goal is to get you out of being insulin resistant by increasing your muscle mass, resistance training, eating adequate protein, making sure when you eat carbohydrates, there's also presence of fibers, fats, and protein there. So your body can better utilize the carbohydrates because your blood sugar doesn't go right away. It's more of a slow arc. So carbs are your best friend.
Yeah. So hear that, girls? Carbs are your best friend. Well, I wanted to talk to you. What does your training look like right now?
I am training CN Tower climbing. That is only really for the next 2 weeks, and I'm going to pull way back because I'm in a build right now, which means I've been trying to out-eat the amount of calories that I have been burning during cardio, but I haven't been able to. My goal has been to maintain weight and then just slowly increase it, but I've actually been losing weight, which I know a lot of women want, and they're probably like, fuck you, but I don't want to lose weight right now, and I'm losing weight. So I'm going to pull back on my cardio after I do the CN Tower climb on next Sunday, and then focus on training 4 days a week. Right now, I've been going in and I've been doing 2 lower body days and 2 upper body days. Goals so that I step on stage next year bigger, because I got the feedback of I'm still a small pro. Oh, wow. And that's what I tell myself when I'm stuck at the bottom of my hack squats. I'm like, I can't do one more rep. You're a small pro. And that's my motivation to rep it out and really push myself to failure. So I'm training predominantly quads, glutes right now, abs, shoulders.
Okay.
So yes, I hit every body part, but when I go in, I'm like, those are my main meat and potatoes that I do on a regular basis.
And are you changing the workout every 6 weeks, or you keep it to one routine for a period of time?
I normally keep it the same for at least 8 weeks, and then I'll go in and change it up. Right now, I'm bouncing back and forth in between gyms, so different gyms have different equipment. So I'll have I have my 2 leg days for this gym and my 2 leg days for that gym.
Gotcha.
But once this is over with the CN Tower climb, I'm really going to be able to focus in and stick with 4 days. I find that 5 days in a build is too much, and I'm not actually able to progress as well in the training that I'm doing. So I can push more weight, do more reps, increase the volume overall when I train 4 days and I rest 3 days.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, 5 can be a lot. 5 can be a lot. But if you just add the right amount of volume and intensity, 4 days is just as fine.
Yeah, I might go back into a German volume training days, which I give to my women in builds all the time. I normally do it once a year-ish. I tried to do it in November of last year, and things just came up where I couldn't consistently do it. So I pulled myself back. I was like, keep those exercises, but the 10 by 10s it mentally is a mind game where you go in, you're like, oh, I have to do more than I did last week. But it's a short 6-week period of pushing and progressing that gets a lot of results and a lot of strength.
It definitely pushes past plateaus for sure. If you do it right and do have that intensity there.
Yeah.
So, okay. So I want to talk to you a little bit about, you've been modeling a little bit more. I find that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I saw you made a post a bit back, And one thing you wrote on your in your post is that little Lexi would be proud. So what does that mean to you?
So growing up, I was an only child,
Okay.
Which meant I had to occupy my time by myself quite a bit. And that was Barbies. And it was watching the TV shows like America's Next Top Model. And I really loved fashion. I loved the Victoria's Secret fashion show. I loved watching Project Runway, all of that. And I was told, well, I believed in my head, no one actually told me this, that like, because I have a birthmark right here, that I would never fall under that. I would never be acceptable. And then the other thing was my height. So in order to be a model, you have to be over 5'10". I am 5'5".
Yeah.
Everyone thinks I'm a lot taller than I am. I'm not. I'm 5'5".
Yeah.
So the height aspect was there. But with this movement of being more inclusive in the fashion industry, they're kind of being a little more lenient with the height for some shows. I got cast for Miami Swim Week last year. And then they found out that I was under 5'10", and they pulled me. I was like,
sons of bitches.
right?
Yeah.
But that'll be a future thing. With fashion, though, the first time I tried to audition, I was 8. And it was for Northern Getaway when those stores were still around. And they had like the kid stuff that had all the fun sports. My uncle worked for the company. And they had me go first. And this was my first ever fashion experience. And the director was like, just walk to the end of the runway where the panel is there and then walk back. And I was like, okay, so I was super nervous and I walked out and I stood there and then I turned around, like no direction whatsoever, hadn't worked with an agency, anything like that. And at the end of it, they're like, okay, yeah, we'll be in touch for a callback. Didn't get a callback. And I watched all of the other kids like dance out and do cartwheels. And I was like, I could have done that. You just didn't tell me.
You didn't ask me to, yeah.
But that was in my head as a child. I was like, you're never going to be a model. Move on to the next thing. Like this is still something that you can watch and you can enjoy, but it's not for you. And then 2022, I got in contact with a magazine.
Okay.
And they asked me to model for the magazine and this designer. And it was a really cool experience. And that just kind of opened the door to the Toronto fashion industry, where there was a designer there that was like, oh, hey, I have a show in 2 weeks. Do you want to walk for me? And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Because I already have the walk experience and the modeling stuff from the fitness federation that I chose to be a part of. So it's not just like the go out and do your cookie cutter front pose, back pose kind of thing. It's like you do a T walk and you present, and it's a modeling fashion show, which I absolutely love. You factor in the fitness of it. It's my home. So took my experience from that. And then for that show, they were like, you're going to walk first. I was like, oh, fuck, not again. Like, I don't know what I'm doing.
This is your time to shine.
I know. So I turned it around. I was like, okay, I know exactly what I need to do. I'm going to walk out to that end of the runway. I'm going to pose my heart out and I'm going to walk back. And like my heart was beating out of my chest and I was so nervous for the first one. And then over the past, I'm going to say 18 months or so, that's how long it's been that I've been in it. I've done 7 shows. No nerves whatsoever now. I've learned that the Toronto modeling industry, it's a little disorganized. Like they ask you to show up 5 hours before to get your hair and makeup done, but there's 2 hair and makeup people for all of the models. And like if you show up like 10 minutes late, then you're the last girl to get her hair and makeup, and the designer's running around being like, let me sew you into this, and then the show starts late. So it's a little chaotic for the type A personality that I am, but I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna bring my computer and my phone and I can work from anywhere to fill the time sort of stuff. But I'm so proud of where I am now. And like little me, if I could go back to that girl that was like, okay, callbacks, I'm waiting, and that callback never came, being like, don't worry about it. You are going to get there and you are going to earn your confidence. That's the biggest thing, is like people think that confidence is something that you normally, like you magically just wake up and boom, you're confident. No, it's earned through putting the work in and the self-development efforts in day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. Like I would not have had the confidence to stand up in front of an audience of cameras and news outlets and photographers in a bikini, even just like 6 years ago. I would be like, fuck no. But it's that experience of being able to show up and be like, okay, I'm nervous, but I'm going to do it anyways.
Yeah.
And now getting into fashion, like I was on the cover of a magazine earlier this year. I was on breakfast television in January promoting the CN Tower stair climb. So the more media stuff that I'm doing, the more comfortable I am. But like, I still get a little bit nervous walking in here. I was like, okay, we got this.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy for you for that.
Thank you.
What's something that you're working towards when it comes to that the modeling? Like, is there's like a magazine, something you want to like try to push for? Because I know you're very ambitious. So,
Lady the F Up right now, we are partnered with Inside Fitness magazine.
Cool.
And I think back, there was a magazine when I was a teenager called 17 magazine. And I had a subscription. It was mailed to my house every single month. And inside of that, it had like makeup tips and fashion tips and all that. But it also had a workout in it. And I would do those workouts when I was like 15, being like, yeah, I'm going to try and get fitter. I'm going to have round shoulders. And now I'm the one writing those workouts. And my clients are the ones modeling the workouts that I'm writing, which is super cool. So continuing with more of the like behind the scenes stuff. The fashion industry, I love it, but it also takes up a lot of time. And it's not like, now that I'm in it and I see what it's like, I'm like, that's cool. I'm going to do it occasionally. I'm going to support the designers that I really like. I love the small up and coming designers that I create that personal relationship with. And then there's Fashion Art Toronto in the fall that I'll probably walk for as well. But my focus right now is just like build Lady the F Up, build my muscles. I'll get to the fashion stuff maybe again in the future. I love doing photo shoots just because they're a way to celebrate any stage of my body. I did my last photo shoot about 6 months ago at the heaviest weight that I have ever been, and I loved my photos. And I was mentally in such a low spot because I was comparing my building physique with my hair up in a bun and no makeup and just like looking like a normal person to my leanness that was professional hair, professional makeup, professional photographer, tan, all of that stuff. And I was like, I'm not there. But doing the photo shoots and having that exact same environment and services replicate, I'm like, okay, like you're harder on yourself than you need to be. And I'm really proud of those photos.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty cool. What are you working towards now? What's the next big move that Lexi's doing?
In terms of business, we are going to be launching something called the Lady the F Up Foundations program. So that's going to be an educational program. We're not going to give like specific workouts, and we're not going to give specific macros because that's not something that I personally believe a computer or like a generic cookie cutter thing can provide, but it's the education behind what are macros, how to stay within your window of tolerance, stress management, proper resistance training techniques. So I'm building that out right now for the women who might not necessarily be able to afford coaching from a month to month basis, but they want to take some sort of initiative, and providing the tools and knowledge, being like, here you go, figure this out on your own. We still have the community aspect where like they can ask questions, but it's not a one-to-one experience. That's what I'm working on from the business perspective. From the personal, I'm building. I want to get back on the competition stage with the Federation Fitness Muscle Glamour. So they are a new-ish federation that has launched this year because my former federation, the WBFF, things came out about the owners where a lot of the pros recognized we don't necessarily want to be aligned with them anymore. So this new federation kind of popped up being like,
we're here now.
Yeah, we will be here and we will honor your pro statuses and we'll move forward there. So this is their like startup year. So I'm building, I want to see what they're looking for and how the competitions play out. I'll step on stage next year because I still want to be world champion. I don't care how long it takes, but that is a goal in my life. I don't care if it takes me 5 years, 10 years to do it. I love the process. And in the 2 months last year where I was like, I don't want to compete with the WBFF anymore, but the FMG hadn't existed yet, I was so lost. I was like,
really?
Why am I training? Like, what am I doing? So having that long-term goal of you're a small pro, you're going to be a world champion, keep putting in the effort. That's what drives me in the gym. I've always been competitive.
I know. Yeah. I appreciate that. I love a competitive person. Okay. Well, so we always end off this season on the podcast with 2 questions. And this one will be, what does alpha mean to you? And I want you to describe yourself in 1 word.
Alpha, I would say it's another synonym for lady the fuck up.
Okay. Stacey laughed.
It means like showing up for yourself, taking responsibility for your actions or lack of actions and where you are in life.
Mm-hmm. And describe yourself. One word.
I'd say perseverant. Is that a word?
Can you look it up?
Yeah.
Perseverant? Is that a word? Yeah, I think so it is.
Yeah. Perseverance.
Yeah.
Never give up. Keep fucking pushing no matter what.
I like it. Well, Lexi, I appreciate you being on. I'm sure we're going to get people wanting you to get back on the next season too. So I appreciate your time today. Anything that you want to plug and tell me your tags and everything like that. How can they find you?
So you can find me on Instagram and YouTube and TikTok. Not so much on TikTok though. But Instagram and YouTube, Lexercise, Lexircise. My YouTube, I'm putting a lot of effort into learning new video editing software so that I can put out better videos overall that are going to be very education based. There's a lot of them up there if you want to learn about dopamine deficits or the window of tolerance or resistance training. There's a lot of them on my channel already. If you're interested in coaching, you can find us at Lady the F Up or ladythefup.com for coaching, for seeing all of the incredible transformations that not just I do, but my entire team and the community that we have.
Awesome. Appreciate you being on. I love you guys.